All right, welcome back to Failure TV. My guest this week started his first companies at the age of 19 and has gone on to found over a dozen more. He is a top 30 under 30 and a top 40 under 40 winner, and he is currently creating opportunities for students and small business owners. I'd like to welcome Moe. Moe Abbas, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, Craig. Good to be here.
Thank you very much. Why don't you tell a little bit about how you kind of got into your entrepreneur spirit here? You started those companies at 19. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so, I've always kind of had the entrepreneurial spirit. When I was 12 years old, I would go door to door. I grew up very poor. So I'll give you a bit of background here. I grew up very poor. My family emigrated to Canada in 1989 from war-torn Lebanon. And we stayed and lived in subsidized housing for the better part of my childhood and teenage years. And, I was a very curious child, always exploring, always challenging boundaries. Didn't do so great in school because of that. That laid the foundation to my entrepreneurship later on, is that curiosity and that need to keep exploring and pushing the boundaries. So when I was 12 years old, I started going door to door, selling chocolates and services like snow removal, etc. Try to kind of help my family out a little bit. Made a little bit of money doing that. My parents took all my money, which wasn't the funnest thing in the world, but I enjoyed, going out there. It was competitive. I was always really extremely competitive, seeing how much I could sell and what I could achieve. And, from there, it led me to, I always kind of knew I would be an entrepreneur. I always knew I'd be very successful. Except when I was 18, I woke up and I realized that I was overweight, broke, and not successful. And then I got in a fight at school and kind of got jumped and got dumped. And that's when you kind of hit rock bottom and you're like, what am I doing with my life? Like, I always envisioned myself as a successful person. And here I am, 18, dumped, jumped, and kind of failing in life overall. And I decided to, the next day, I was just so motivated to change my life. And that's exactly what I did. I changed my life, and I started with changing my body. So I would go to the gym all the time. Religiously, I would go to the gym. I had a goal. I wanted to be super fit. I had role models, Arnold Schwarzenegger, and I just started learning everything that I could from Arnold Schwarzenegger and other people at the gym. But he was I guess, my mentor, although I never met the man in real life, and just followed his teachings ultimately. So I started by building up my body, and I did that, and I became super fit. And I used that same discipline and drive to become an entrepreneur. So when I was 18, it took me about 2 years to achieve my physical goals, a lot longer than I thought originally.
They always are.
Yeah, it really is. Before that, I was going to the gym for 3 years, and I had zero gains, because I would go there and hang out and do a little bit of exercise and then go eat 3,000 calories. And, I had really no idea what it meant but I didn't really have a goal as well, right?
Yeah.
So it's really important to set a goal of what you want to achieve, right? And have that vision I had a vision for my body, and I really wanted to achieve that vision. And that's what my main focus was. And then when I was 18, I got lucky. I went on a contract out to BC, your neck of the woods.
Yeah.
And to Miami, Florida, as well, Palm Beach, Miami area, fixing phone lines. And I was the youngest phone technician in the country at 18. And I didn't know how to fix phone lines, by the way. I was straight hustle is what I did. Just literally problem solve and people skill. I had great people skills. That's what kept me alive in that contract, is just my bosses like me and the clients like me. And I didn't fix the phone lines, but I made them feel good, right? People forget what you do, but they never forget how you made them feel. So that was, that's kind of how I survived that contract. When I came back, I got paid really well, 18 years old. going 19, making $33 an hour, and $100 a day on top of that. So I was making like $400 to $500 a day, and I was just working like 13 days on, 1 day off. I had a lot of freedom in that job too, so I started reading a little bit, and then came back to Ottawa, had some savings, and at that time frame, I knew I wanted to become an entrepreneur. Like I knew that's, I failed in school. I didn't believe in the school system. The goals that I wanted to achieve could only be done through entrepreneurship. You had to be in business. So what I did, I went to chapters every single day. It's an Indiegogo. It's a bookstore. I went there every single day, and I would rollerblade there. And they had couches there at that time. I get a coffee from Starbucks, sit down with a great book on business, and I would just learn business. And then I would learn psychology, and then I would learn chemistry, and then I would learn about art and religion. And there was a few subjects that I really liked. Business and self-help were my two favorite subjects, and psychology. But there was a time where I could walk in that bookstore and I had read a book on every shelf. So I had this well-rounded knowledge base, right? And then when you start getting that kind of diversified knowledge, you realize some realizations I got from that. Information, everything is really just information, ultimately. That was really interesting. And then from there, I started a landscaping companies. So in the springs, I would go door to door again. And this time it was a lot more expensive. I was making $500 a day doing that. So I had this savings from the contract work, and then I started my first foray into entrepreneurship, doing what I knew best, which was door to door. You get immediate results, you made cash. It was labor as well, so I got fit. And then I wanted to go a little bit bigger, so I got some of my friends, and they started going door to door. And then we started hiring some people. And then we set up crews, and then we started buying a little bit of machinery, and then we started like organizing systems. And this was like over 1 or 2 seasons. And I did that, but then I realized that again, I'm not going to achieve my goals, my big goals in this specific industry. And it was a tough industry, but it was very capped. I was doing lawn maintenance and driveway maintenance. It was very limited in what you could achieve in that. It was great cash though, $500 a day in cash is great for a 19-year-old, especially at that time. And then I said, I had a friend who was running a gym at the time, and they were looking to renovate that gym. It was an old gym in the basement of a mall, like very like moldy old gym. And they're really cheap. They couldn't afford it. What's that?
Seems very reminiscent of the 80s.
Yeah, they were very cheap as well. Like they didn't want to spend any money hiring proper contractors, right? So they hired me. I had never swung a hammer in my life. Never did trade work in my life. Okay. My father was actually a tiler by trade, but I was never in the trades. And then here I am, this 19-year-old kid taking on this massive gym renovation, and I had to figure out everything from scratch. So I had to hire contractors. I had to figure out how to read plans. I had to figure out what drywall meant. I had to figure out, all this crazy stuff. It was insane. That learning curve was massive. And obviously I got my ass kicked and I lost my shirt on that first contract, but I learned a lot. Don't do commercial construction when you don't have any experience. So I lost actually part of my savings on that. I ended up losing money on that, and I worked there for almost 9 months in that contract. And then they didn't pay me. The guy didn't even pay me at the end of it, and yeah, it was bad. And in the next contract, I lost my shirt again, but learned it was a high-rise commercial building. We were doing trim. I had to deal with the union on that job. And then my company became unionized. I didn't even know what that meant. I had like no employees. I'm like, how do I become unionized? I don't have any employees. But I became unionized. I learned not to mess with the union on that one. Uh, they don't play nice. You want them on your side.
Yeah, always.
Always have the union on your side, right? You can't beat them, so you got to join them ultimately. So, and from there, I started again. It's all this big learning curves that happen, and I started focusing on residential. Why? Because it was very people heavy, right? The commercial is not people heavy. Uh, and residential is you can talk to human beings, you can work with them through problems. They're a little more forgiving. They'll put up with a lot more. They're more price sensitive. So if you give them a good deal, they'll give you a shot even though you don't have a lot of experience. And that's what I did. I focused on this specific niche of residential, and then I was actually doing like basements was a big thing for me, bathrooms, some kitchens. And then we expanded and started doing design build. So this is where I started copying one of my competitors. And so I recommend this for everybody. If you have a competitor you can copy from who's successful, that's the first thing you should do as a startup. It'll save you so much time and headache. Bill Gates stole this line from, sorry, Steve Jobs stole this line from Picasso, and it was a good artist copy, but great artist steal. Right? So you want to take what works from your competitors and make it your own thing ultimately. And that's what I did. I copied my competitors who were doing design build and 3D renderings. They were the first to do that. And then we started doing 3D renderings, and it was like this new thing. And then I one up them. I started focusing on digital marketing. And in construction, nobody was doing digital marketing. So that was like a significant advantage that we had. It was we were out competing everybody on sales and marketing, which were my two core competencies. I don't know construction, but I know sales and marketing very, very well. So sales, very high level sales. And then we started nailing the marketing aspect of things and started building this machine. And then I started actually at Starbucks. I have a lot of history with Starbucks. I did $1 million at Starbucks myself as a one-man show. And then from there, I got a little basement office. And then I hired some friends on contract base. Then we expanded that office to a couple of rooms. And I hired some more friends, and we took the whole basement. And I hired like a whole bunch of my friends. And then over time, we expanded the company across Canada to become one of the biggest design builders in the country. And, it was me and like a dozen of my childhood friends that were just figuring shit out as like early 20-something-year-olds with like multi-million-dollar call, like just multi-million-dollars we're dealing with. And like just in this industry, and we were just killing it at that time. Again, sales and marketing we were just killing everybody on that front. And you start learning. What's that?
That's a huge part of things even today.
Even today, yeah. If you have sales and marketing, then you can. Well, what it does, it gives you cash and it gives you time. And then, unless your business is very operation heavy, and we were in a very ops heavy business. So it was really tough actually, because it was very ops heavy, right? So when you are making mistakes in people's homes, it was very, very difficult. You had to deal with very frustrated clients. So I learned how to deal with very high stress, high pressure situations, extremely high pressure, right? I'm 22 years old, 23, and I have companies across Canada. And I'm dealing with renovation. So people's homes are being torn apart. Things are bound to go wrong. Ultimately, I'm the leader. They come to me for these problems, internally and external problems. And they're really big problems. You're looking at people's life savings, right? And you're doing a rental yourself. You know what's involved. And you're like tearing apart their house. They're living in the house at the same time. So it really taught me how to deal with stress. I've always been a low stress person, but when you're like getting bombarded with these extremely high pressure situations, and you have no choice but to deal with them. You either die or you deal with them.
I
That's
learned that
pretty
in
much
IT
it.
pretty quick too. It's the same
Yeah,
kind of scenario. It needs to be fixed now, especially like I was in TV, so like there's always deadlines and stuff. So it's always, if something goes wrong, you're always pushing to that high stress level to get everything done and finished.
yeah, exactly. Like, there's situations where they have family coming for Christmas and they're like traveling next week or even now, and they're staying in a hotel room because the rental's late because of this unforeseen circumstance, and everyone's frustrated and it's over budget, and it can be a nightmare situation sometimes. Um, but it was a lot of great experience.
Absolutely.
So that taught me a lot of how to work with people, how to troubleshoot, how to build systems across Canada. And you realize that people are your most valuable assets. The most important part of any business is people. Take care of your people if people take care of your company.
Absolutely.
And,
I think Richard Branson has a very similar slogan to that too. He's
yeah,
very high on that.
yeah, he does. And a lot of people do. Jack Ma is big on that too,
Yeah.
from Alibaba. All these successful guys, it's all the same formula. Different journeys, but it's the same methodologies they use generally. And for me, I early on I hired some B players that were not very good in my organization, and I learned very quickly how detrimental cancers can be in companies. Um, so it was a huge learning experience in construction. By the time I was about 25, I knew, okay, maybe this is not what I was not really going to achieve my long-term vision in this industry. And by 27, I made the decision to pivot out of construction,
Yeah.
into tech. Because I didn't even know what tech was, by the way, when I was started construction in Ottawa, Ontario. When I didn't go to school, I taught myself everything. I had a lot of mentors, but most of them were from books I never actually met in my life. And then, clients and people I would interact with and learn from. But I didn't know that tech was even an industry. Like, I didn't even know what it was at that time. But as I get more experience in business and started researching different business models and interacting with different clients and expanding my horizon, I've always been a tech guy. I've been using tech a lot. That was the advantage that we got in my business, whether it was the internet for marketing. I was using Chatter in Salesforce. I don't know if you remember that.
I
It
do.
was like pre-Slack days, and it was like in beta. I'm like, wow, this thing's amazing. We can communicate with your team and clients. Like, we got to get on this. And I got my whole team on that. My whole team was on Salesforce. And we were on CRMs, and we were like, we had iPads and job sites before anybody else in the industry. So tech was always something I utilized in business, but I didn't realize that you could build software companies, and I didn't realize a lot about margins. You know, which margins in business and scale. Tech is an industry. It's unique unto of itself because you can scale a business extremely quickly. And if it's software business, you have these massive margins, like incredible margins that you don't get in any other business. Very few businesses have that kind of margin, and the impact you could have on people's lives. So I started realizing this, and I'm like, okay, well, if I spend the next 50 years in construction, I could, I could probably generate hundreds of millions in revenue. Okay, let's say $200 million in revenue. And then I can make $20 million on that in profit, let's say 10% EBITDA. And then that will be worth, maybe you have a 3x multiple on that. So I could have a $60 million organization if I line all my ducks in a row by the time I am out of my ability to do business. And then I thought about that and I said, and then what's the impact I'm gonna change a lot of people's lives one at a time in a renovation, and that's very, very impactful. But then you look at this, you look at tech, and you're like, And I don't like to just say tech. Like we should really solve a problem if you start a business ultimately. But I knew the direction, the relative direction I wanted to go to was a startup ultimately. So I did what I always did, very curious, started subscribing to different tech publications, started reading up on startups, started following big tech companies, Y Combinator, all the big investors. I curated a Twitter feed. I curated my Facebook feed. I signed up to a bunch of email newsletters, and I started really learning about the tech space to a certain extent. Like it was just very rudimentary at that time. And I made the decision at 25 to pivot out of tech. I had an opportunity to do that. I brought one of my partners back from Vancouver to run my Ottawa construction company. And I made probably one of the hardest decisions in my life because I knew the opportunity cost that I was giving up, right? I was top dog in tech, award winning, I was famous in the industry. And I made a decision to start from point zero. Nobody knew me. I had no credibility. My experience in construction does not get transferred to tech.
Yeah.
People don't transfer it. Why? It's just not a thing that happens ultimately. Even though it was very valuable, it just was not recognized. And one of the mistakes. I'm a very, especially when I was younger, a very like just get it done kind of guy. Shoot from the hip. I took a lot more risks when I was younger, and I suffered a lot of damage. So when you're taking risks, you have to be prepared to take. You will take damage, and you got to be okay with taking damage, right? But if you land some shots and you're still alive, you can make progress that way. And that's what I did. I had a lot of failures. Some of my shots landed. I made some money on those shots, a lot more than my failures. So if you can limit the downside and you still have upside potential, take the shot. People are always afraid of losing.
Risk.
Calculated risk. I got a lot better at risk management as I got older, especially as I got past 30.
Yeah.
And I can talk about 30s and 20s are very different. 20s, I was taking shots everywhere. Like it was crazy. It was insane. I had like 6 or 7 companies, significant multi-million-dollar companies at 25 years old running at the same time, all with fires in them. All of them had fires raging in the companies. And I'm just like, I'm thinking about that. I'm like, what the fuck was I thinking? Excuse my language. What was I thinking? It was crazy. I would never do that now. Much more calculated. But when you don't have a lot to lose and you have time, like, why not? Like, what do you really, a lot of people, they overestimate what they have to lose. Like, what do you really have to lose? Nothing. Maybe a little bit of money, big deal. Maybe a little bit of your pride. It'll come back. It's not a big deal.
I think pride is one of the biggest things for a lot of people too. Is that thing to pride has kept a lot of people from doing a lot of things.
Pride is the singular biggest. It's the biggest. It's what holds people back, right? They're afraid of failure. They're afraid of being judged. They're afraid they're not good enough. And if they're put to the test, they're afraid of that becoming a reality. Because if they don't test it, well, maybe I am. Maybe I'm good enough, but I'm afraid I'm not good enough. But if I don't look, I don't have to know.
Yeah, and I've been there many times.
Everybody's been there. Everybody's been there, right? And there was something I had it in my calendar for years, and it was eat the frog in the morning, right? You want to eat the most difficult thing you can the first thing in the morning, right? The hardest thing to do, you do it the first thing in the morning. You don't wait. You wake up, you get it done, you eat it. And that actually, like, I really advanced that mentality quite a bit, so that now my morning routine is pretty insane. And
that's really cool.
Yeah, and what I also like to do is to get past that mental hurdle. I think it's important to compete. right? So if you start competing and you start winning and you start pushing your boundaries a little more, right? You gotta get out of your comfort zone. A lot of people, they like to be in their comfort zone. I like being in my comfort zone. It's comfortable. Who doesn't want to be comfortable, right? But you can't really give me much examples of people growing it from their comfort zone. You can't really grow. So you got to ask yourself, if you want to grow, you have to get out of your comfort zone. So do you want to grow or do you not want to grow? If you want to grow, you got to get out of the comfort zone. So what does that mean? Like, and there's a lot of ways to do that. Like even going to the gym, you have to tear muscle to grow, right? You
No pain,
have
no
to,
gain.
no pain, no gain. Any sport, any learning, you have to go through a phase of suffering and unknown and then you get the benefit, which is the growth and the opportunities that come with that. So how did I achieve this? What do I like to do? You know, some of the things I like to have a slightly bigger vision. I don't look at just what I need to tackle. And if I do, I break it down systematically. And then for me, I really believe that half the battle is showing up. So if you are trying to go to the gym and you can't go to the gym, you always find yourself excuses going to the gym, just show up to the gym. And you're like, you're there. Okay, what am I going to do? Fuck, I guess I'm here. Well, I might as well work out now, you know? Like, I don't really want to work out today, but guess what? I'm going to go to the jiu-jitsu class and then I'm going to be like, oh crap, my instructor's telling us to do this exercise. I guess I'm going to have to do it. And then by the end of class, you're a champ, you feel great, you accomplished your work, everything is gravy,
You broke a sweat.
So you broke a sweat. Half the battle's showing up. I can't stress that enough. I actually studied how to build habits for a long time. So now I have a systematic way of building a habit. Any kind of habit that I want to gain, I have a systematic way of achieving that goal, the outcome, habitually. And not very many people pay attention to building habits. It's a significant part of your whole life is habits. Like for example, I can give you an example. What habit that I want to build? I wanted to go to the sauna every day. That's one example. Why? Because it reduces all-cause mortality by 40%. Anybody want to check up on that? You can research Dr. Rhonda Patrick's. She has a lot of data about the benefits of a sauna. To me, other than diet and cardio, it's probably the most impactful thing you could do on your life to increase your longevity. And one of my life goals is to live a very long time in health. And so I said, well, how the heck am I going to go to the sauna? Right? I can go after work. I can go in between the day. It's very inconsistent, right? So I actually sat there and I thought very heavily, looking on my schedule. And I'm like, where could I fit this in? Every day, Monday to Friday, because you have different routines during the week and you have different routines on the weekend. So it was during the week. And then I'm like, okay, so I could, if I go to bed at 10, which I was already going to bed at 11. If I go to bed at 10, which is a little trickier to do, or 10:30, I wake up at 6 a.m. And then I have 2 hours before I got to show up to work. And then I'm like, okay, then I need to be at the gym by 7 a.m. If I'm at the gym by 7 a.m., I can do a 20-minute sauna session, and then I could go, and then I'm finished and I get my sauna done. So I just started. I made sure I was out of the, and I said, I got to be out of the door. It's only 5 minutes from my house by 6:55, right? So then I planned how long it takes me to get dressed and get ready in the morning. I'm like, it's only about a 45-minute endeavor. I put the snooze on for 10 minutes. It takes me 30 minutes to get, shaved or not even shaved. Sometimes I shave, get dressed, get packed up, and then I could be out the door by 6:55. So I knew that it was very realistic and I built triggers, right? I had these triggers everywhere. So I packaged all my stuff for the first little while. The night before, I had a notification, put your multivitamins in a Ziploc bag. Another thing that I do, I have all my vitamins in a Ziploc bag, and I just take the bag in the morning. And then I show up at the sauna. And then I wanted to layer another habit on top of that, which was stretching. So when I went to the sauna, I built a stretching routine, a 20-minute stretching routine. And then I'm like, well, I want to hit all my bodies. So I broke up my stretches into 30-second increments per stretch. Okay? And then I wanted to layer a breathing routine into that because I want to be very efficient. I don't want to just sit in the sauna doing nothing. It's 20 minutes of nothingness, right?
Yeah.
So then now I layered a breathing routine into that, where I do a breathing exercise while stretching in the sauna. And the breathing exercise, another very beneficial thing people should do, they don't pay attention to, is breathing. I'm a big believer in optimizing your breathing patterns and increasing your VO2 max. It increases your overall performance, and it's another link to longevity as well. If you could breathe less because you have more efficient breathing, then you have less airflow, less oxygen, less turnover in your body, and your machine has a longer lifespan ultimately. Anyways, the point is there's a method to building habits. And the method is simple. There's a trigger, an action, and a reward. Those are the three things. One thing that I was doing really bad at night was I was drinking a Diet Coke, eating chocolate, and eating chips every night.
Ooh.
Every night. You gotta understand this. Every single night.
I have my own junk food habits like that.
It's a horrible habit. And what I realized after years, by the way, of like trying so many things, is I tried pushing it back super late and I would still eat the same amount. I tried eating bigger dinners and I would still eat the same amount of junk food. Like we're talking like a good 700-800 calories of straight garbage. And I realized that the trigger to my over snacking was Diet Coke. So I'd have a Diet Coke and I would portion the Coke with the snack. And often I might have a little bit of snack left or a little bit of Diet Coke left. And if there's a little bit of Diet Coke or snack, they didn't quite match each other, I'd have more snack. But then I get thirsty, I'd open another Diet Coke. Then I would drink a Diet Coke and then I'd want to finish it and enjoy it with more snack.
So you developed a habit, but the wrong kind of habit in the wrong way.
Wrong kind of habit. Exactly.
Going in the wrong direction.
I couldn't figure it out. So I tried not getting the chips, but when I bought Diet Coke, I needed to have the chips or the chocolate. And then, so what I did is I stopped buying Diet Coke. That was hard. Really hard. So what I did then is I replaced it with soda water. Right? Because there's no aspartame. It's not the same kick. It's just kind of like a nice fizzy water.
Chips and the little flavored rice cakes instead.
Yeah, so chips, what I did with chips, don't ever buy a big bag of chips. Don't ever buy a big bag of chips. Okay, that's number one. If you want a chip, I go to the gas station and I buy a small bag of chips. I'm gonna finish the whole bag.
The box of the even littler bags of chips.
No, because you have a box that you have. No, that's dangerous. For me, I would just eat more bags. Okay, so the thing is, there's a trigger, an action, and a reward. The trigger is for me is seeing the bag of chips, and the action is eating it. The reward is dopamine hit. Right? So, and I want that dopamine hit. You're kind of addicted to that, but you want to manage the dopamine hit somewhat, anyways. So, soda water and a small bag of chips. I'm still getting the dopamine hit. Like I'm still getting that. It's not as intense, but it's good enough to make me happy. But there's no more trigger. When I finish the little bag, I'm happy. I'm eating. I'm super happy. I'm like, great. I'm getting some chips, and I'm finished. I'm like, I look around for a second. I'm like, oh wait, I don't have any more, but I'm still pretty good, right? I'm not going to get in my car and drive to the gas station and get another bag of chips. So I removed the trigger from my presence which means I'm not going to do the action of eating it and the reward of the dopamine hit. So for that one, I first of all, I don't even buy the Diet Coke can in the first place. And then the second one is I get very portioned bag of chips. And then I don't buy the chocolate. I used to buy the chips and the chocolate. Now it's like either chip or chocolate, not both. And so you're still giving yourself the reward, but it's much more manageable. It's like one quarter to 1/5 of the damage of a big bag of chips and like a tub of ice cream. You know,
Yeah. The worst place for chips is Costco.
I don't buy at Costco. I would never buy anything from Costco that's snack related.
No, I go there twice a year, and I stock up on all the big things of meat, the toilet paper, the paper towels, like all that kind of stuff. I go once or twice a year, every 6 months, fill up on that, and that's my Costco trip.
Nice. Yeah.
I learned the hard way on the snacking at Costco, so try and avoid it now.
Yeah. They're good at getting you buy stuff, right? That's the whole business model. In fact, Costco was famous for, they're like, look, we can't get any more shoppers. They like saturated markets. And so they had to figure out how to increase revenue without growing their user base. So their main KPI is basket size now. They try to up the amount of money you spend per visit. That's the main focus of Costco. They can't get any more customers at this point, in a lot of markets at least.
Well, I think they're still doing pretty well, but that is
great.
kind of the goal of most businesses, is to get to that point where you're trying to scale even further, and you're running out of options because you're already just massive, right?
Yeah. And you know what? Going back to that chip habit, you know, I can't explain to you how many things I tried. I tried putting triggers on my calendar. Don't eat chips, don't eat junk food. I tried eating different types of dinners that are more heavy so I don't get the craving for snacks. I tried eating different kinds of healthy kind of snacks, which I still do now to a certain extent. Like pumpkin seeds are actually a good one, like the kind of filling. They have this new dried chickpeas, which are actually pretty nice. They're not as yummy, so you don't eat as much of them. But ultimately, like this goes back to the methodology. I never give up on a goal. Okay, in my mindset, you only truly fail when you quit. You're still in the game otherwise, right?
Yep.
So just don't ever accept quitting. Just don't quit. Keep moving. Just do it. Keep moving. Keep moving is one of my favorite sayings, right? Just keep moving. Keep going. Keep going. Another step. Another breath. Another rep. Just keep moving. And then all of a sudden you're there, right? They say, how do you eat an elephant? Piece by piece. Ultimately.
Absolutely. That's actually like a perfect metaphor, actually, like in such a small sentence. Like, just keep moving. Like, otherwise you become stagnant, you become stale, you stop, you get out of it. And yeah, I really like that, and I think more people should definitely definitely consider that. And honestly, I think that's a great spot for us to wrap up here. But I do have one final question that I ask everybody. If you could give somebody that's just starting out one piece of advice, what would it be?
And what are they starting out in?
Anything. They're trying to launch a business, they're trying to get a career going, they're trying to do something, and you know, they're at that point and they're a little bit stuck. Well, what's the best advice that you can give them from your experience?
2 points on that one. Technique and method matters. So follow the right methodology. Okay. If there's a certain way of building a business that you're in, or a career that you're in, people have done it successfully before. It's been documented. Find out the methodology they've used and do that methodology. That's number one. The second one is 3 rules I live by. First one is integrity. Operate with integrity. If people don't trust you, they won't work with you, they won't believe you, they're not going to be around you. So Always operate with integrity. Second one is work hard, because ultimately everything is a function of your work. And the more work you can build, the more you could, work is kind of like, you could get better at working, but it's finite, right? You can work, you can go from working 4 hours to building an ability to work for 12 hours and get that. I'm a big believer in work ethic. You got to have that great work ethic. You don't get nowhere without work. Nothing gets built without work. And the third one is, work is finite, though. There'll come a point where you could only work so much harder and your output diminishes. So what you need to do then is learn. You got to optimize your learning. How quick could you learn? What's your delta on learning, right? And so integrity, work hard and learn, and then only a matter of time before you achieve your goal.
I love that. That was just perfectly put. Mo, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thanks,
you've got an amazing story. You've got an amazing passion for what you do, and I think a lot of people can definitely benefit from your advice here.
We didn't talk about GenM. Damn it! Oh yeah, next time, next show.
Yeah. Well, yeah. For those of you that didn't know, Mo is the CEO of GenM, which is an amazing company that helps students and small business owners pair up to get experience, and to get experience both ways, really.
Yeah.
Right?
Sweet.
Yeah. And so check them out, genm.co, and you can get the link on the website as well. Thanks for tuning in this month. We'll see you again next month.